In this video, we're going to be talking about how to calculate simple interest. And the most important thing we need to know right off the bat is that when we say simple interest, we specifically mean interest that is not compounding. So sometimes you have a certain amount of money, and that money will earn interest within an account. And then as you earn interest on the interest. So if I start with $500 in an account, I earn some interest, let's say maybe $10, I end up with $510. With compounding interest, I get interest on the entire 510 because I'm getting interest on that $10 of interest that I already earned. That's compounding interest. But with simple interest, you only ever get interest on the original principal amount. So if you start with $500 and I earn $10 of interest, I still just continue to receive interest on the baseline 500 amount, not the 510. So in this video, we're going to be talking about that kind of interest, not compounding, but simple interest. And we have a couple formulas here that we're going to want to remember. And we're going to start with this one, which tells us that the interest I is always going to be equal to P, which is the principal amount or the amount in the account that we started with, times the rate, the interest rate, which is given to us as a percentage and we need to express as a decimal number, times T, which is time. So principal times the rate times the time. And we want to think of this rate as an annual percentage rate and T as time in years. So they should match the annual percentage rate or the rate per year and time in years. So both of those have units of years and then the principal amount P. So let's talk about the kinds of problems that we can solve using this formula and the idea of simple interest. So let's take this first problem here, which says that we currently have $500 in a savings account. We're earning 4% on that savings account. So the bank has told us that we have a 4% interest rate. We've got $500 in there. So the question is, how much interest will we earn in 2 years? So there are a couple ways to do this, but let's first just plug everything we have into our formula for interest. After all, we're asked to figure out how much interest we'll earn, and we have a formula here for interest. So that's perfect. So let's say that our interest, I, is going to be equal to the principal, which is $500, multiplied by the rate. Well, we're told that the rate is 4%. We want to convert that to a decimal. So 4%, remember, is not 0.4. That would be 40%. 4% is 0.04. So we express 4% as 0.04. And then the time we've been told is 2 years. We're going to wait 2 years to see how much interest we will have earned. So we've plugged everything into the formula, and now we can just do the arithmetic on the right-hand side to solve for I. Well, you could do this by hand if you wanted, or you could use a calculator. But what we see is that we're going to get an answer here of $40. So we'll get 40 here. We know we originally had $500, so the interest is going to be $40. So we can always plug into the formula, but we can also sort of think of this in a more logical, deliberate way. So we can say we have $500 that we're starting with. We're getting 4% a year. So we could just figure out, for example, how much interest we're going to get in 1 year. Well, 4% times 500, which is what we would do, would give us $20. So we could say 500 times 4%, and that's going to give us 20, so we get $20. $20 is the interest we earn each year, and because it's simple interest and it doesn't compound on itself, we just then multiply by however many years we're interested in. In this case, we wanted to know the interest for 2 years, so we multiply 20 by 2, and we get $40. Then $40 is the total interest that we will earn on this account in this time period. So if it's easier for you, you can always calculate the interest you'll earn in 1 year and then multiply that by however many years here you've been given. Now, sometimes you're going to be asked to figure out how much money the account will have after these 2 years. So let's say we have this exact same problem, but instead we were asked, how much will we have in the account after 2 years? In other words, how much will we have in total? Well, that's really easy to figure out, even though it sounds like a different question, because of course, the amount that we'll have in total is going to be the amount we started with plus all the interest we earned. So we started with $500, and we racked up $40 of interest. So the total would be 500 plus 40 is going to be equal to 540. So when you're asked that question, when you're asked how much will you have in the account after a certain amount of time, not just how much interest will you earn specifically, you can just do the same calculation we did here, looking at the interest only, calculating the interest only, and then add that to the principal amount, the amount you started with. So you can do the same math and then just take the result and add it to the 500 you started with. That formula really is this formula here for A, where we say the amount, the total amount that you have in the account after a certain amount of time is equal to the principal plus the interest, which is what we just did here. The principal was 500, the interest was 40, and so the total amount A was 540. But of course, we know the interest, I, is equal to the principal times the rate times the time. That's the formula that we used before. So we could also call this amount formula principal plus PRT. And then we could factor out a P from this, if we wanted to factor this out, and say P times quantity 1 plus RT. So we just pulled the P out in front. Factoring P out of just P leaves us with 1. And then factoring P out of PRT takes the P away, leaving us with just RT. And the reason I wanted to bring this up is because you'll often see this amount formula written this way, P times the quantity 1 plus RT. But really, I think this formula overcomplicates things in a way and just adds another formula that you have to remember. This formula just comes directly from the fact that the total amount you have is just the principal plus the interest. And we already know how to calculate the interest as PRT. So you can always just rely on the formula interest equals PRT, and then know that if you want the total amount, you just have to add back the principal to that result that you found for interest. So if you see this formula written this way, that's what it means. Let's do another example where we plug directly into this formula so we can see that it works. So in this problem, we're told that we currently have $140 in an account and we're earning 5% interest. We've been asked to find how much is in the account after 6 years. So notice that they didn't ask us, how much interest did you earn? They just asked us, how much do you have in the account in total after 6 years go by? Okay, well, we know how much we have in total we can calculate using this formula for A. So let's see what that looks like if we just plug directly into the formula. We get A is equal to the principal, which is 140, the amount we start with, multiplied by 1 plus, now the rate, R, is 5%. We want to convert that to a decimal. So that's going to be 0.05, not 0.5, because 0.5 would be 50%. So 0.05 to get 5%. And then multiplied by time t. And we've been told that time is 6 years. So we'll multiply here by 6. And now if we do this math here, this arithmetic, we could just do it on a calculator in one step, or you could write it out here. 140 multiplied by 1 plus 0.05 times 6 is 0.3. So 0.3 plus 1, we get 1.3, and then 1.3 multiplied by 140 is 182. So the total amount of money we'll have in the account after 6 years is $182. Now, if we wanted to find out how much of that was interest, of course, we could just subtract out however much we started with. So we could say that interest is equal to $182, total amount we ended up with, minus $140, the amount we started with, and we would get $42, which means that we made $42 in interest. Now remember, we plugged directly into this formula for A, but we could have done the math just like we did in this first problem using the interest formula instead. So instead, we could have said interest is equal to the principal amount, 140, times the rate, which we know is 0.05, times the time, which is 6 years. And if we do that math, what we get is $42, which looks familiar because we already found it down here. So we get $42 for interest. And then we know we started with 140, so we could just say that the amount is the principal plus the interest, 140 plus 42, and the total amount in the account after 6 years then is $182. So you'll notice that there's several different ways you can go about doing this, but they all come back to this core formula of the interest is the principal times the rate times the time, and of course that the amount in the account after a certain time is whatever you started with, the principal, plus the interest.